Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Political Excess. Today, I've got another hypothetical 2024 presidential matchup. This time, let's do Kathy Hochul for the Democrats, governor of New York, against JD Vance for the Republicans, U.S. Senator-elect from Ohio. I really went back and forth on some of these states. I made some changes. Several can go either way, so it is difficult, but let's try to do this anyway. Safe states over a 10-point margin. Likely 5 to 10 points, lean under 5 points, and tilt 1 point or less. So what I can say about both of these candidates is they have not been in office too long. In J.D. Vance's case, he has yet to assume office, so he's going to have some work cut out for him. If he ran in 2024, which I don't think he will, he'd have a couple of years to shape his image. I'm guessing he would have more working class appeal and would not be as disliked in some of the suburbs and the deep blue cities. So I think some voters would need a little bit of time to warm up to him, and 2 years probably is not exactly enough time. And as for Kathy Hochul, she won election in New York by a fairly reduced margin compared to the lean of the state. I don't think she is really all that well liked. I think her charisma is fairly low. I think in a lot of states she's going to have a limited appeal, but I do think she is well liked in the areas she needs to be. The wealthier areas, the expected liberal areas on the coasts, she would do well in those spots. But she's also not been in office too long. Her track record is probably mixed, I would say. But let's play out this completely far-fetched scenario. Let's start in Alaska. That will be a safe for J.D. Vance. Donald Trump won this by 10 points. I don't see J.D. Vance having less appeal than Trump did, so that would go safe. Hawaii, any Democrat is pretty much going to be getting a safe margin in Hawaii. Back up to the coast, Washington, Oregon, California, all safe for Kathy Hochul. It's difficult for almost any Republican to be competitive in any of these states. But how about in Nevada? This would be competitive. It was a tough call. I don't really think a lot of voters are going to be that enthused about Kathy Hochul in Nevada. And as I said about J.D. Vance, I think they would be hesitant about him. They don't know exactly who he is, where he stands yet. But in the end, I think his working class appeal would very slightly put him over the top, and I have this as a tilt for Vance. Idaho and Utah, safe for Vance. Arizona, another very difficult state. I settled on a tilt for J.D. Vance. I think he has less baggage than Donald Trump, and of course Donald Trump won Arizona the first time, nearly lost it the second time. And without that baggage, I'm thinking Vance would be able to pull out a win here. I'm going to say by under 1 point. Montana, Wyoming, safe for Vance. Colorado, blue state, Kathy Hochul would win that safely. I don't necessarily think J.D. Vance would resonate a lot here. New Mexico, that'll be a likely for Kathy Hochul. Another state where I don't think Vance really fits in all that well, and I also don't think Kathy Hochul fits into this state, but given the partisan lean, I'm going to say Hochul would win this by probably 5 to 7 points. North Dakota, South Dakota, safe for Vance. Nebraska at large, safe for Vance. The 2nd District, that will be a lean for Kathy Hochul. It seems like at this point it's actually tough for a Republican to win this district. I could be wrong, but I am going to say that Kathy Hochul ends up winning it by at least a couple of points. Kansas, that will be over double digits and safe for Vance. Oklahoma will be way over double digits and very safe for Vance. Texas, this will be likely for J.D. Vance. It's hard for me to picture Kathy Hochul really exciting much of the base. I think she would do all right where she needs to. I think Vance would probably be able to do fairly well in a lot of the deep red Trump counties. And in the end, the lean of the state is still a little bit too much to the right, and I think Vance would win this by over 5 points. Up to Minnesota. Now we get more toward the Rust Belt. These states were actually very difficult for me. And Minnesota usually tends to go blue on a national level and a lot of the state level, but I settled on a lean for Kathy Hochul. I know Hochul would do well in the Twin Cities, but I'm not sure how well Vance would do in some of these legacy blue counties. Up in the Iron Range, would they actually be more accepting of someone like J.D. Vance, who I assume would be a little bit more on their side on economics, but would also be more appealing to them on the cultural issues? That's a good question. If he speaks to a lot of those voters, he actually could flip the state. What if the turnout in the Twin Cities and the college towns, if they turn out big for Kathy Hochul, she would win this by a likely margin. So I'm going to settle on a lean, probably 4 or 5 points right now. How about in Iowa? This I have is just under a 10-point margin, probably 9 to 10 points, so likely for J.D. Vance. It could even go safe. I wasn't sure, so I put it at likely. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, safe for Vance. Up in Wisconsin, This was tough for me. The state, I think, is still trending a little bit toward the right. Again, I don't think Hochul is going to do a lot of exciting. And Vance, he still has to prove himself. If he doesn't come into it with a lot of baggage, I actually have this as a lean for Vance. Just about 1 or 2 points. Illinois, safe for Hochul. How about in Michigan? Now, this neighbors Ohio, where JD Vance is from. He should have a decent amount of working class appeal. So I do think this could go either way. I'm not sure. Michigan, I think, is a little bit bluer than Wisconsin. And as I've said, I don't think Kathy Hochul is super appealing to a lot of these voters. I do think the red Trump counties would come out for Vance. But the trend of the state has just not moved enough for me to be able to give it to Vance. I have it as a tilt for Hochul. But this one is really up in the air for me. Let's move on to Indiana. That'll be safe for Vance. Same with Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama, all safe for Vance. So let's get on to Florida, and that I have as a lean for Vance. I know Ron DeSantis won huge here in the midterms. I know the state is apparently trending hard to the right, but I want to see how the next presidential election goes to see how it actually trends on a presidential level. So I think Vance would win this by at least 2 or 3 points, but I can't say it would get to 5, 6, or 7 points yet. I think that's a little bit too much of a reach at this point. But I don't think Kathy Hochul would do a whole lot in Florida. How about up in Georgia? Very, very tough call for me. I have it as a tilt for Vance. My reasoning here is, although the state is trending toward the left and might become out of reach for the Republicans if those trends continue, Donald Trump very narrowly lost it in 2020. So someone just a little bit less hated than Trump, I think, would do better in the Atlanta suburbs, as long as they don't lose much vote in those deep red rural counties. And I don't think Vance would really lose a whole lot of that vote. So I have it as a very narrow tilt for Vance. South Carolina, safe for Vance. North Carolina, I have it as a lean for Vance. Let's go to his home state, Ohio. That I have as a likely for Vance. Could it go safe? Absolutely. By the time the election roll around, the state might rally around him and he would win that by 10 or 11 points. That's possible. Just to be sure, I'm going to just say it's a likely margin. Could be 6 points, could be 8 points, could be 9 points. Again, it's a little bit too early to gauge how well Vance would do, given he has not even taken office yet. West Virginia would be very, very safe for Vance. Let's go up to Maine. At large, that'll be likely for Kathy Hochul. The 1st district will be safe for Hochul. The 2nd district, much redder district, that'll be over 10 points and safe for Vance. How about in New Hampshire? That would be a lean for Kathy Hochul. Maybe 2 points, maybe 3 points, maybe even less. But as we get back into the Northeast, the geographic proximity and the overall lean of that region is going to help Kathy Hochul get an extra couple of points, and she would win New Hampshire. Vermont is going to be safe for Hochul. New York, Hochul's home state, that's an easy safe for her. Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C., all safe for Kathy Hochul. The only possible exception I see is in New Jersey. There are some working class voters there, and I think if JD Vance really ends up building his image around being a blue-collar type of a hero, he maybe could get that margin down to under 10 points, but for now we'll leave it as safe. How about Pennsylvania? Well, I know the midterms were bad there for the Republicans. They were hoping the trends would continue toward the right, and it hasn't really materialized. Pennsylvania would actually border where both of these candidates are from, Ohio and New York. I do think Kathy Hochul would get decent margins in the Philadelphia suburbs. Bucks County, Chester County, she would really run it up there. Vance would do really well in a lot of those red counties. But in the end, I think Hochul would probably win this by 1 to 3 points, so I have it as a lean for Kathy Hochul. But I am open to being wrong on this one. And finally, the last state is Virginia. It's a fairly blue state, so Hochul would win that with a likely margin, somewhere between 5 and 10 points. And that is my map, and that would result in 278 electoral votes for JD Vance, 260 for Kathy Hochul. JD Vance would narrowly pull out the win here. Several states are very, very close, only decided by a point or less. They could easily go one way or the other. I think the big unknown factor here is what kind of a reputation JD Vance is going to have. And the little bit lesser unknown is how much of an appeal would Kathy Hochul have outside of New York, the Northeast, and the typical wealthier, bluer liberal areas. I don't think it's a whole lot, but it does remain to be seen, and I know this matchup is obviously outlandish, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun and play it out. So let me know, do you mostly agree with this map, or do you disagree on 5 or 6 of these states? That's fine. Let me know down below in the comments. And if you enjoy this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.